All right, so today uh, we're going to try to do some deep merging in Elixir. So I think we all know kind of how merge works, and if we don't, we'll look at that too. But I want to mess with deep merging. I ran into this problem at work the other day, and um, it was like writing a client that sent some default values and some override values, and it was on a nested map. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we can look into that and see like how we can do a little bit of an experiment kind of thing with that. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're gonna deep merge some maps. So when I was looking this up, I just looked up Elixir deep merge and ran into this Stack Overflow article that was pretty helpful. At first, it was a little bit confusing, and I think some of the text here was ended up being really helpful. So we're gonna look over this, and in the meantime, we'll kind of make like this little just a little module that kind of test drives through how we're going to do this. So we'll start with, we're going to call this project Deepa. If you don't know who Deepa is, I can't help you. Okay, so let's see. So we always start with a test, and we're going to write out kind of like how we want this behavior to work. And then we'll do some test driving. So we always start with a test. This has a test. You know, when you generate a new Elixir project, it has a test by default. And this will just, I always like to have a describe. So describe, we'll call it deep merge. Actually, if it's called Deepa, we'll just call it merge, which isn't the best because map already has a merge, but whatever, that's okay. This is our library. We can do whatever we want. So we have deepa.merge is going to be the name of our first function. And it'll take two maps. So we have an array of 2 right here, and merges 2 nested maps. So let's start with a map. So we'll just say, we'll call this first one like the base map or the default map equals. And say this is like a person, right? So yeah, so this map represents some kind of person. We have a name. Actually, yeah, we'll have a name, and then we'll actually break it down into first name, Micah, last name, just last, I guess, and we'll say Fubar, Micah Fubar, that's me. And then maybe we have like an age here, and we'll say 35 as an integer. And then what else could we have? Oh, you can have something like an address. So typically an address might be like one line, but because we want to represent like how we're doing a nested map, I'm going to make an address be a map with some other attributes in it. Hold on. That's my dog. Hold up. Come on, Skye. Come on. Okay, sorry. Let's get back to it. So we have address, and then we'll have line 1 typically, or yeah, line 1, and here we'll say 1, 2, 3 Super Street, and then we'll have line 2. I mean, do we want, this is a big test data. Yeah, this is a lot of crap. Let's get rid of address. I mean, if we test this, there's no need to test this too. Plus, it's just so much text on the page. I don't like that. So we have age, and then we have name. So this is our default person, okay, in our test. And then we have this like an overlay or an override. So what we'll do here is we say override. And we want to, say we want to change the first name to something else. So in this map, all we're really going to have is name, and then we're only going to have first. We don't care about the last name. We're just going to change the first name to Robert. Okay. So then we have our module here. So we expect deepa.merge to take the baseline first. So the way we're going to kind of structure this is the first argument will be the default, and then the second argument will be the one that we're overlaying on top of it. So we have default, and then we have override. So we expect this to equal, really, it's this whole thing with a different first name. And get rid of this, and I think this. And this here is going to be Robert. And let's jump over to like the explanation here. I thought it was a really good little explanation. Like Stack Overflow, yes, make fun of people if you want, but for me, I find it, in this case, it was actually a really good explanation. Where was it? Yeah, I think this was it. So yeah, so we have this, this person calls it a deep merge, pretty much the same thing. So left and right, the left in our case would be the default, and then the override is the right. So we just call it a normal merge, map merge. So map.merge it can take 2 arguments or 3. When you pass it 3 arguments, this is a resolver. So if you run into a conflict in your maps, if your keys conflict, this will be the function that runs to decide what to do, like which value to take. So first thing we do is we pass these in with the function deep resolve, and then you have your 2 different deep resolve functions. In this case, what they're doing is you only really do another merge if the left and the right are both maps. And yeah, so it's actually really simple. So let's do that, and we're pretty much gonna implement the same thing, but we're gonna test drive it, and then we're gonna see if we can make it smaller, like really nice and compact. So yeah, let's start with that. So the first thing, let's get rid of this real quick, and then we'll run a test suite real quick here. So we have our tests, syntax error before name on line 9. So we need a comma right here. And we run this again, and another error right here. Let's see, function expect. Oh, assert dir. Let's see. Okay, so now we're just missing our function. So let's hop over to the implementation, and we'll call it merge. And then we say default and override. Those are our 2 functions. Of course, this should still fail because we haven't implemented anything. We can see our test over here. So we got nil. We expected this properly nested map. So the first thing we'll do here is we'll just say map.merge default override, and then our merge function here. And we need to define this again and capture it. So then we say def merge. And in this case, this is the function that's going to happen when we get our conflict. So in this case, the first argument is key. The second argument is the base value. And the third argument is the override value. Like that. And then in this function, we'll do something else. And pretty much what we saw before was if they're both mapped, well, let's see what we get now if we run the test. Still failed. The left one didn't have a name in it at all. And what happened was because it returned nil here and we ran into a conflict, it just returned nil. So we need to implement the rest of our behavior here. So the first thing we'll do in this case is we'll just say map. We'll just call merge again. Merge. And yeah, base value and override. I'm just going to call it base and override. And now we'll pretty much run into this. Oh, expected map got Micah. Oh, because it's trying to call this merge when right here, it's expecting these both to be a map. So we kind of need to implement our third function here, which is, in this case, if this is a map, and if this is a map, then we'll call this one. Otherwise, we just return the override. the test. And we passed. We have a bunch of variables that are unused here. So like we never really care about the key in this case. Like it is useful to have the key if you wanted to, you know, do some logic, like only deal with this conflict if the key is like name or something like that. In this case, we don't care about the base. In this case, we care about both of them. So run it again and we have a passing test. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. So let's add a couple more assertions to make sure that this works kind of the way that we expect. So we have this. What happens if we have a default here, but in the override, we have a completely different value, just foo bar, right? So now we would expect this to have foo in it as well, and it should. So the left has it, but the right doesn't. So let's go ahead and capture that kind of test case there, and we'll see that pass. And then the same thing, like if we have another value in here, like middle, and we'll say like, you know, jacks or something. Oh, we're missing a comma. See, now the full map. So this is the override. So you would expect it, even though it has the same name here, and this is kind of the default, you can add more fields to it, and it's just going to combine them all. And if you ever run into a conflict, it'll take the second one. So that's kind of how this works, and it's pretty cool. It can be useful for like if you're building up some configuration. There was a library that I actually saw a lot of this from called Deep Merge, surprisingly, and this is pretty much what they did. Now that library handled a lot more use cases, like it didn't let you like merge structs and stuff like that. But I feel like if you're just going to have like a simple implementation, this is totally fine. Yeah, this is totally fine. If you need more than this, then you can use the library or you can add your own functionality to this. So, so this is cool, but I bet we can make it like a lot shorter, a lot smaller. So let's inline some things and see how it feels. So like this, and then we have this over here. And this is the nice part about having tests, because we can like mess with all of our code and make it really short and ugly, and it still passes. So that's cool. So I think the only thing I want to do here is make some shorter names. So we'll call this base everywhere, and then override, we'll say overlay, and save ourselves a letter. Yeah. Oh, and here. Let's see, overlay. Overlay. Oh yeah, one more. Function default. Oh yeah, base. There we go. So we have like a deep merge that really just uses map merge, and it's only 3 lines of code technically. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, thanks y'all. See you later.